Good morning, Vikings fans. This is Morning Joe's. I am your host, Joe Johnson, owner of PurplePTSD.com, VikingsTerritory.com, Purple Territory Radio. And if you're listening to this, you're probably a new writer on the site since apparently all of North America wants to write for our network. I'm here with Mr. Joe Oberly. He is the editor, soon to be the busiest editor ever.
You're killing me.
Of Purple PTSD and Vikings Territory. He also writes for the Sports Post. How you doing, man?
I'm all right. It's Friday. It's almost Christmas. It's good.
It's a magical time of year. I will say, I've worked with you for a few years now, and you're typically a pretty level-headed guy, one of the most level-headed people I've ever met in my life, to be honest. But something set you off yesterday, and I have to, we talked over text. We didn't really get a chance to chat about this on the phone, but I assume when I texted you, what we'll explain in a second, that you probably, did you think I was just messing with you?
No, because as soon as you sent it, I went and looked and found that it was in fact true. And then first of all, let me say I'm not a big proponent of talking fantasy football on here, but I'm pissed. I got there was a score correction with an Ezekiel Elliott fumble, and it took my 1.88 point victory and turned it into a 0.12 deficit, and so I lost, and I'm no longer in the championship. And
that is amazing.
I'm quite bitter about that. Because first of all, it smacks of golf. Because what I read somewhere, some guy, I think from Reddit, but I don't know, it doesn't matter from where, called in and alerted somebody about this, the fact that they never signaled that it was a fumble. That Ezekiel Elliott fumbled against on a fourth down play against the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts recovered, ran off the field with the ball, and it was a fourth down, so it was a change of possession anyway. So they apparently didn't call it a fumble, but the scorekeepers on ESPN, whoever does all this, called it a fumble.
Was it a fumble?
Well, I'm after the show's over, I'm going back and I'm going to find it on somewhere to see a look. But it was a play. It was a fumble, and Colts came off with the ball. So as far as I'm concerned, the fumble happens first. If what I'm thinking did happen, the fumble happens, they get the ball, the play ends then. So the fumble happened first, so you got to record it. And apparently they didn't signal it, they didn't review it or anything as a change of possession because it was fourth down anyway. So then someone went back in retroactively, changed it, took 2 points away from him, and gave 2 points away from Indianapolis Colts defense, and blah 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 blah. And I'm out of the finals, and I'm bitter, but whatever. It's fantasy football.
Yeah, and you've been really. Were you in the finals last year?
No, but I won it a couple years ago. So
2 years ago. I mean, that's they had you they had the bracket set. Your name was there. To lose by that much for that is just, you'll remember that the rest of your life. That's just crazy. It does, I will say, as somebody who set up a league with we had 10 people, 10 writers, and I set it up to have 8 people make the playoffs to make it more interesting, more engaging, and to hopefully get me into the playoffs for the first time in the 3 years that we've been doing this, and I still didn't make it. And so the fact that since you beat me in predictions every year, and are doing so again this year, I took full disclosure, an immense amount of pleasure in that, because my team is basically dead.
You're happy I lost, Joe? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe.
Dude, I'm out of here. I'm so out of here.
I owe you like 5 trophies at this point. So.
Man, I heard someone say the other day, I hate to lose. It was a politician, a Missouri senator who got beat, and she says, I hate to lose. And I feel like I'm so sick of people hearing hearing people say that. Everybody hates to lose.
Yeah.
No, God.
It's no fun.
I'm really I'm pretty bitter this morning. I hate to lose.
So the Pro Bowl teams were announced, and I'm wondering if the coaches always add players at the last minute. I'm not sure if they're still doing the same thing with having captains and captains choosing the teams instead of doing AFC, NFC. I think I heard they're not doing that anymore. But nonetheless, 4 Vikings made the Pro Bowl. Danielle Hunter, Adam Thielen, Harrison Smith, and Anthony Barr. And Barr's made it now 3 years in a row. And it's interesting to me because he gets a lot of flack from the Vikings writers world and from the fans for some of the stuff that he's done, especially this season. He's been, you look back to the Rams game, especially. I think 2 of those touchdowns were on running backs or receivers he was covering. Granted, I believe one of them was Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are hard guys to cover, and he's a linebacker, and it was a mismatch for sure. But I did see some people, some articles saying, Barr's been great in pass, both, rushing the passer and in coverage this season. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. And so I don't know, maybe if there just isn't a lot of talent at that position, or if his name it precedes him because he had an amazing rookie year. But to me, I was surprised that he made it, to be honest.
So now you're going from this bad beat in fantasy football to the Pro Bowl, which is another sore spot with me. What are you trying to do to me? I wasn't before I started here, but
I'm telling you. I will say really quickly, I always talk about how the site started and the arguments that I got in about Trey Waynes, and this happened, getting run off of Reddit and having to start the site, so I had a place to go to talk about football. But one of the reasons that I don't really engage people on Reddit as much as I used to, even though I am in the middle of a 3-week argument with somebody about Prefer, which has been the strangest argument I've ever had in my entire life, because this person is basically telling me it's impossible to tell whether or not a punter can hold before they get there, and regardless, it's not the coach's fault if the players are bad. Or he's not. It can't be held accountable for it because you can't teach kicking, and it's basically a crapshoot.
What's this have to do with the Pro Bowl?
Well, the reason that I stopped going on Reddit was because when Teddy made the Pro Bowl, I believe in 2015, I wrote an article saying he didn't deserve to be there, and he was like the 8th alternate anyway. But people I got death threats when I wrote that. I'm not even kidding. So I don't want to be down on like positive news either. So I'm not going to say I don't think that Barr earned it. I'm just surprised that he made it.
All right, well, here's the deal. Pro Bowl is a joke on the field, and unfortunately it's becoming more of a joke on how you get there. I guess what I don't like about it is how it really – you don't make it the first year you have a good year as you come into the league because people don't know about you yet, and the players voted in, on name recognition and all this baloney. And once you get in there, your name sticks there, and everybody says, "Oh yeah, he's good. He had a good year," and they check him off. And I don't know how much time they spend with it or whatever, unless there is a campaign somebody wants to get their buddies in there. But all that said, I thought they did very good with the Vikings this year. I thought all 4 of those guys deserved it. I think Barr did have a very good season, and is a Pro Bowl season. I don't even know what that means, but I think it's really good. And you hear Zimmer talk about him. You hear some of the stuff he does every week. He does things that I don't think everybody pays attention to and can quantify that well. So which goes further for me to say, certainly Hunter deserved it, certainly Thielen deserved it, and Harrison Smith deserved it. There's no question about that. I think Barr did as well. And I think they got to find a way to re-sign this guy. I think he's a cog in this defense that we don't even know. And you'll probably have Zimmer, advocating for him. There's always been the history of him. He had a couple bad years there, and people really got at him because he didn't match his rookie season, and they're wondering what happened and blah, 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 blah. I think his versatility as a linebacker, he can do, he's good in coverage, he's good in rushing the quarterback, he can, do what the job takes. I don't think we have a full conception of exactly how important he is to that defense. So I'm fine with it. I think he deserved it. And for once, I don't have a problem for it. Just don't make me watch the game. That's all I say.
And hopefully they'll skip it because they'll be in the Super Bowl. But if it came down to it, we haven't really talked about this much, at least recently. Talked about it more on Purple Journal. If you had to choose between Barr and Richardson, who would you take? Okay, if you had to lose one of the three, let's do it this way.
I'm going all Star Trek Captain Kirk on it. I'm changing the parameters. I'm taking them.
Barr, Waynes, Richardson. Which of the three would you lose? I think it's pretty obvious who mine is. I'll say Barr because I do think that he's the most easily replaceable right away. I think, obviously the Vikings have a decent amount of high-level draft picks at the corner position, but as we've seen, it takes years, especially in Zimmer's system, to get up to a consistent level. I think Trey Waynes is quietly having a career year. He's doing really well. He's had games where he's been completely shutting guys down. He's completely removed from the days of being too handsy and getting penalties left and right. He's outplayed Rhodes during stretches of this season. Granted, Holton Hill's been a huge surprise as well. So he's a similar body type, similar skills as Trey Waynes. Sheldon Richardson has shown flashes of being a game-changing three-tech. I mean, he's dominated. He's had games where he's had an insane amount of pressures. I think, especially with Everson Griffin getting back on track, that defensive line as a unit is just so scary. And we've seen, Eric Wilson come in and play admirably. The Vikings have the Sharif Floyd thing obviously didn't work out, but I think it'd be harder to replace a guy impact-wise like Richardson more so than Anthony Barr.
You want my answer?
Yeah.
Waynes. I think just mere fact that he creates the least problems for the defense, and he creates the smallest hole if you take him out of there because they do have depth at that position. You've got Mike Hughes who's going to come back and be a really good player. You've got Holton Hill. You've got and I think if you took Barr out of it, linebacking core, that creates a big hole. That yes, they have somebody behind him, but he's not as good. He can't do what he can do. Richardson is he scares me a little bit because you worry about if he gets a nice big contract, what'll happen. But he's played great. I definitely want him, the Sheldon Richardson that's on this team this year right now, back. I mean, he is phenomenal for the defense, and Zimmer loves him. He loves three-tech guys like that. And so for me, it's Waynes. He even though I think he's been slowly coming on, he's really becoming a very good cornerback in this league. I think you could easily lose him before you could lose the other ones, but that's my opinion.
All right. Well, historically, I mean, I keep forgetting. Is it Brzezinski, the guy that seems to be the money guru?
Rob Brzezinski, that's correct.
Yeah, he's super underrated. He's great at what he does. So hopefully they'll be able to keep all three. We'll see. The Vikings play the Dolphins, the Detroit Lions this weekend. and it's a huge game. You know, the Vikings obviously control their fate. They need to win this game to compete for the 5th seed, stay in the 6th spot, stay ahead of some of the teams. I think I saw 538 said the Vikings have a 58% chance of making the playoffs. The Eagles, it does seem low to me. The Eagles have like something in the 30s, and then you have the Panthers that have a 1% chance now of making the playoffs. The Redskins are in the mix too. You know, they're obviously hurting at the quarterback position. They just lost one of their corners, probably. Definitely he's not playing this weekend. He'll be suspended and then probably end up with at least a 6-game suspension next year.
Redskins play the Eagles too, so there's one of them's got to take a loss, or any if they take a tie, that helps the Vikings as well. So
yeah,
so there's a loss there that you're gonna get out of one of those teams. So one of them, I think the Panthers are done. The Panthers are absolutely
I think they played the Saints twice, or they just played the Saints. They played again.
Tyler Heineke is their quarterback this week. So did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah,
good for him. You know, he was a fan favorite here before he kicked that door open and kind of ruined his career here. But I'm gonna watch. I'd be interested to watch that game. I have NFL. Apparently, I've been paying for NFL Sunday Ticket all season, and I didn't realize it until now. So I ended up getting a new Apple Watch and a new iPhone XS Max, which is like a $1,200 phone, which was cheaper than my iPhone 6. But I can watch the Vikings from my watch, so I'll tune into that game for sure. That'll be fun.
Anyway, so my point is, you know, I think it's. You know, if the Vikings win this one, then they're in the driver's seat, because next week either the Eagles or Washington will lose that game, and so the Eagles play. They have a reasonably tough game this week. I can't remember who it is that they play.
I think it's the Houston Texans.
That's right. That's correct. And so that, you know, that's why it seems a little low. But, you know, the Eagles played real well last week and beat the Rams. So, you know, maybe the Eagles are finally figuring things out and coming on, and Nick Foles is much better than Wentz, and you can start that debate wherever you want. But the Vikings, you know, take care of business on Sunday. You know, if you lose this game, I don't even want to talk about it next week. I just like, go look at the draft. I mean, it's everything's in front of you. You're playing well. Your defense is playing great. Your offense is improving, maybe on the cusp of figuring things out. You're playing a team that doesn't care anymore. It's so beat up physically, and if you don't win, and if you don't win by a decent margin, the Vikings are then a mediocre team.
This is a stupid question. Eagles are 7-7, so they'd be 8-7. If we win this week, we'd be 8-6-1.
Right.
So even if we lost next week, they'd be 9-7, and we'd be what? Yeah, 8-7-1. Yeah. So yeah, we for some reason I had in my head that if we won this weekend, we'd have that little half game on the Eagles.
If the Eagles lost and the Vikings win and the Redskins lost, the Vikings would be a game and a half over everybody with one to go. So they could clinch if that happened.
If they'd clinched. You're right. And we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, and we have other stuff to obviously cover too. But you brought up the Foles versus Wentz thing, which is a huge debate, and you mentioned that he's better. I mean, do you mean long? Okay. Kind of talking about. I get it. You were referencing the quote unquote quarterback controversy.
Yes.
Man.
I mean, people can talk about it. I'm sure it's important out in Philadelphia. I don't care. I mean, I don't think, like I said earlier in the week, you know, people are forgetting how bad Foles looked in the preseason in the first couple of games.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have tape on him, so they haven't figured him out. But as soon as they watch last week's game, they'll see what he does. They'll see how they simplify perhaps the offense for him, and they'll figure him out this week. I don't think it's a controversy. The guy was ready to retire before he went and signed with the Eagles last year. So,
well, he'll be a hero there forever. He'll be able to open a car dealership or something. Not that he needs the money. I'm getting a ton of money. Let's get into the Friday's 5 Furious Facts.
Okay, let's fire through these facts fast. How about that?
Oh, 5 Furious Facts, Friday's Fast Facts.
I fired through very fastly. Vikings had 10 sacks last time they played the They had 9 sacks last week. It's a big stat. It's you got a quarterback that's beat up, that is not moving as well as he usually does in there. He's ready to go golfing. I think he's a pretty good golfer, to be honest with you. And I do think the Lions will be looking for this and will be doing some things to try to mitigate that, to keep him on his feet. But if the Vikings can tee up again and do something like this on the defensive line, they're going to have to start people looking around the league and saying, I don't know if I want to play the Vikings defense all of a sudden. So, I think it'll be fun to watch, to see what the Vikings do, if they really try to go after them, or if they lay back and have them just think, that they're coming and screw them up that way. I don't know. It'll be fun to watch how the Vikings, it's all set up for this stat.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking.
And we saw.
That means, just to finish, that means that it won't happen.
Yeah, that's actually one of our over-unders for the week, is 7.5 sacks. As we talked about on Tuesday after the Dolphins game, the Vikings are the first NFL team since 1990 to have 2 games with over 9 sacks. I mentioned earlier too that Everson Griffin seems to be getting stronger every week, and we did a Q&A after the show last week on Periscope that I'm hoping to do today for about 10 minutes. And one of the questions was, does the team move on from Everson Griffin after the season? I've never heard that from anybody. He's one season or just this season removed from being the linchpin of the defensive line, arguably of the defense. He has been on pace for breaking records a couple times, 2 of the last 3 years, including this year. Just beyond anything, getting rid of him because he struggled with some mental health stuff, I think would be a PR nightmare, and just would not be cool for a guy that's been a leader for this team and has done everything the right way, outside of what happened at that hotel, but that was addressed as a mental health thing.
You asked the question on Tuesday that how old he was. He's 30. I just looked up. So.
Okay, so he's still in his prime, and I think they always say that guy you hit your physical prime at 28. That's when you kind of are full of testosterone and reach peak muscle mass and all of that. So it's a luxury to be able to ask that question just based on Hunter. I mean, the caveat to the question was, can they move him to the right side and give him like a Brian Robeson sort of role? Robeson, he had was it last year or the year before, where he had a bunch of sacks and seemed to be traveling back in time. I don't necessarily think they need to do that, since Hunter's been so good on the right side anyway, and he moves over to the left side all the time. They shuffle these guys around, obviously, but the idea of long story long of getting Griffin back to 100% as we get to the playoffs, like you said, Joe. I mean, God, we're coming off of a game where it seemed like the first time all aspects of the team were fully functioning, and it wasn't just the defense, or it wasn't just the offense. And they very well could be a team that nobody wants to face, because the defense is getting back to form, and with him getting back to form as well. Oof, it's a little exciting. I'm not gonna lie.
I like I said then, I said now, you don't get rid of him yet. He won the Ed Block and Courage Award this week, which is the news around Griffin, which is nice for him, for his comeback award. And I think the team votes on it. So I think he's working his way back into game shape. as we said Tuesday, once you go to training camp just to get in shape for all these games, if you take 5, 6, 7 games off and stay away from football, you're gonna lose that. So he's got to work his way back, and I think he's getting there. I think you're only going to see him, play better these next 2 games and maybe make some damage in the playoffs. So, I would not advocate for that. Maybe if his role changes, maybe make him renegotiate his contract so he can fit somebody else in there. But other than that, no, you want him on your team.
Yeah, I agree. Especially for a guy he's so quick off the snap. You got to get that timing back too.
Okay. Next fact. I'm sorry. Next serious fact is I just got a spaced out here. I don't even know what I wrote here last night. I wrote these last night after I forgot I should have done them, but it's one game, it's one win, one on the last 3, one win over a team with a winning record. Let's see the Vikings do more. I'm very pleased with how they played last week.
Yeah.
But got to see it again. Got to see it again from Stefanski when someone finally got something on tape of what he wants to do. You got to see it from this offense to this running game to see if they're going to be able to run the ball again with that kind of thing. You got to see how, even though you're not playing a team that's better than the Dolphins, the Dolphins were terrible last week. So I want to see that, and I want to see them really come out and be firing on all cylinders like they were Sunday. And if they do that, they pick up some steam, they get some confidence, and they roll back to U.S. Bank Stadium, and they will beat the Bears. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. If they play the kind of game they did last Sunday, this Sunday, and put a no doubt on who the better team is there in Detroit, if they do that, they will be peaking. They stay healthy. Look out for them next Sunday.
Definitely. I mean, you have one team that has everything to lose and another team that has nothing to lose. Really nothing to play for outside of the role of a spoiler. I did see a quote from Zimmer saying, about Stefanski and about the offense, that he was super happy with everything, obviously, but the holes won't be as big as they were against the Dolphins this week or going forward. So it was a great timing thing. They played the perfect team to get right. It was a really big get-right game, but things are going to tighten up, obviously. And this team, under Zimmer, has struggled against the Lions, which I think is a segue to the next point, for whatever reason. And so hopefully, they'll be able to get the monkey off their back by, sweeping the season series and in a dominant fashion both times.
Yeah, speaking of the next one, the Vikings are 73-39-2 against the Lions. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Bud Grant kicked their butts for a number of years, so did the whole, and a lot of other people. But the last win was only the second in the past 5. So Zimmer does not done well against the Lions. They own this team, and they haven't lately. It's time to return to domination. So that's another reason why you can't let this team have any kind of reason to feel like they should be in it. You should go out there right off the gate like they did last week. You had 21 points in the first quarter. They better go out and score on the first drive and just time to get the ball and really give them a reason to give up and try to get to the end of the season, because this is. The Lions are a decent team. They're better than their record shows, but
they have an elite quarterback.
Nothing to play for. They have nothing to play for. So.
Definitely. You have looking into what the struggles were. It did seem like the main component of the Lions' success against the Vikings has been Stafford. He's had great games against them, clutch games. I can think of 2. One I think went to overtime. The other one was the last-second loss. Both of those games really stung because you felt like the Vikings should have won them, but they didn't. And that was what was so great about the game earlier this season. They just gotten rid of Golden Tate, 100-catch guy. Nobody has stepped up to fill that void. It's a very hard void to fill. I still don't understand that move. He was obviously Stafford's go-to guy. When you lose that, he's taking a lot more time trying to find Marvin Jones or Jr. or whoever else is open. And when you have the DBs that this team has, a lot of those sacks were coverage sacks. And so I don't necessarily think that's changed in the weeks. but they have to make sure that Stafford doesn't get rolling.
Stafford is a sandlot player, especially in the end of the games when he does his comeback kid stuff. He gets out there, sprints out, he moves around and throws the ball on the run and does some sidearm passes, and he plays football, as they say. He's exciting in that regard, and he can do things, and he has, but he's beat up now, and he's not going to be moving as much as usual. Put the smack on him a couple times early, and you'll make him give up. So yeah, you're right. It scratched my head. How many times that lately that they've beat the Vikings. Well, it shouldn't be happening, and it won't this week if the Vikings come to play. If they have one of those, oh God, this is an easy game. Let's mail it in. They're done. The season's over.
Yep.
And I'm just as pissed as I am about my fantasy football.
We have said earlier in the season, where's the fight in this team? And it did feel like maybe for the first time, just how they started against the Dolphins, especially, that they finally woke up. And so I'm super interested to see how this game starts.
Lions are ranked 11th against the pass with Darius Slay back there. Is very good. Another Pro Bowl player this year. But they're beat up back there besides him, so it's time to slay the Lions. They'll probably put Slay maybe on Thielen, maybe on Diggs, one of the two, and that's got to create opportunities for somebody else. So I'm hoping for sure that they'll get the run game going, but I want them to see them throw the ball again so that they put on tape that the Vikings can be a very balanced offense, and that you got to prepare for everything when they're coming in here.
Thielen had that historic start, and he has over 100 receptions on the season, which is amazing because he's been relatively quiet these past few weeks, which just goes to show how awesome the connection between him and Cousins was. I really do hope, if the Vikings are going to make a run in the playoffs, obviously they have to get these guys involved. It is relatively astounding that they put up 41 points last week, and Diggs and Thielen were super quiet. Diggs had a touchdown and 40-some yards, obviously, but Thielen has been limited, and I know that that's a scheme thing, and the teams are basically saying we're going to take him out of the game, whereas earlier in the season they seemingly were choosing Diggs as the guy to take out of the game. But yeah, I don't know how to fix that, or if they necessarily need to. But, other teams obviously have number one wide receivers that teams scheme against, and they can still get them the ball. So I want to see more of that. And so that's actually, I had Thielen as one of the over-unders as well at 99.5 yards because he's going to bust out one of these games. They don't need to force it because if the offense is moving, but that's I would love for that to happen.
The final fast, furious, freaky fact for Friday, whatever we call it. Lions are 21st passing team in the league, and it's getting worse. No Tate, no Marvin Jones, and even Galladay is dinged up. Get to the quarterback and make them run the ball. Where they're also missing carry on my wayward Johnson. Did Chris Berman ever use that one? That's a pretty good one.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar? I made that up.
No.
Okay, the Vikings can't kick this. They can't kick this one away. They got to have it, but for reasons we've said earlier. So, usually you want to. They always say stop the run and then make them, pin back their ears and go after the quarterback. I'm suggesting try it the other way. Get to Stafford early because he's their biggest threat, and then see what they got left after that. I know they won't do that, but I think that would be fun. Have you gotten a sense as to what identity Patricia is attempting to instill in these guys? I know, there's been some mini mutiny type stuff. He's had them practicing outside, despite the fact that they don't have an outdoor game coming up when it's really cold. I think he's trying to toughen them up. Obviously, you'd think that he is looking for a more defensive-minded team than anything, based on his role in New England. But, I don't know. I wonder if they're if some of these tactics he's employing are coming from Belichick. But I don't know. It's kind of weird. He looks like he looks like a mini me of Zimmer in a way. He's just a grumpy defensive guy that wants to instill toughness on his team. And, if that's the case, that's not a bad way to go. But I don't know about making him practice outside. It's like that almost smacks of what was that Vikings coach said they had Les Steckel that was doing crazy the Iron Man stuff. Were you around for Les Steckel days?
Me?
Yeah.
I was born in 1984, so maybe.
Yeah, I think this was 83. So
okay.
Crazy stuff. He was doing all kinds of Iron Man stuff in Mankato at training camp, making them do the Iron Man contest and.
Wow.
Yeah, it was all real.
Were the players into it, or I feel like you feel like you have to earn that. Just because you worked with Belichick doesn't mean that you can earn that sort of thing. It reminds me of someone in my lifetime, of Tom Coughlin, who, when he came into the Giants, was like fining people for wearing hats or speaking out of turn, and the players were pissed at first. I know Strahan was not happy, but they obviously had some success, and that kind of went to the wayside. When you have success, I think players are more willing to do things like that. But when you come in
for a while, they'll go along if you're winning. But after a while, they'll say, "Okay, this is bullshit."
They're not college players,
right? I think you got to keep changing it up. You can't just keep. This is the way we've done things, and this is the way we'll continue to do things. I think you gotta, you can certainly install some, some structures about the way you do things. But seriously, finding someone for wearing a hat, I think that would be the first thing to go. Whatever.
And they give them hats. It's so stupid. It's like finding someone for drinking water after handing them a water bottle. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Stefanski and some of the reactions this week, and people were analyzing what they did left and right. I kind of went to the man himself and Zimmer to see what they said about it. It seems like it was a group effort, that there was a lot of feedback from the players and other coaches. Everyone was trying to lift Stefanski up to make sure that he was successful, which I think is awesome because it shows how invested this team really is. And in regards to the group effort as well, I think Stefanski said, and I might be taking this out of context, but that he focused more on the players than the plays. And I've said a couple times with the DiFilippo argument these past few weeks that the Vikings have a tremendous amount of playmakers on offense. The argument before the season was who's the better roster on paper, the Vikings or the Rams. And so by I interpreted that as him simplifying things and saying, let's just get the ball to these guys and they'll make plays. And it seems to be what he was saying. I don't know. Obviously, you have access to the team and you get to hear the full range of things. What your thoughts were on like how the game plan worked, whether or not you're confident it'll work going forward, so on and so forth.
I think I hear that Stefanski is very calm.
No panic, no chaos.
It's the number of times I've heard that from different people. It's amazing to me. I'm wondering if he even has a pulse, but it's either that's the okay, this is what we're going to say about him, or it's really that different, that it was that chaotic. I wanted to ask the other day is it so chaotic when what's his face was DiFilippo was around? Because I've heard it from 6 different people. Oh, he's really calm. He's a calm guy. Even Brad Schiller's chimed in. He's a calm guy. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I guess after this broadcast, I guess I wouldn't qualify me to play offensive coordinator for the Vikings because I'm not very calm this morning.
No,
but,
my iWatch keeps telling me I need to go to the hospital.
So I don't know. I mean, you wonder about this. I don't know. I can certainly see that DiFilippo put in all kinds of stuff to pad his resume. It's possible. I don't know that for sure, but he had so many plays out there, and he wanted people to see all the different things that he could do, and maybe it confused him, and just like Zimmer did on defense, so maybe they stripped it down and figured out things that worked. The fact, that's why I can't answer that question, Joe, on how it went, because I want to see it again. I need a bigger sample size. I need this game against the Lions, and then I need them to do it against a really good defense next week. If they can do that, then I'm going to say, okay, I'm all in on Stefanski. What he's selling is worth buying. But it seems to me it was. A little more stripped down. I saw some things that I wanted, which was Kirk Cousins, sprinting out a little bit outside.
Yes.
Zimmer's right. You're not going to ever see the holes that big. I mean, I sat there with my mouth open and go, look at that hole. Oh my God, look at that. And that was more a product of a team that was coming in and wasn't ready to play, if you ask me. So, and I guess it was part of their scheme too. So I don't know. I really can't make that assessment yet. Talk to me next week, and maybe I'll have a better handle on saying, okay, this is worth looking at. But still, for me, the litmus test will be the Bears' defense on December 30th.
It's amazing. I mean, just bringing up the getting Cousins out of the pocket thing, whether it was bootlegs, rollouts, not really getting out of the pocket, but there was a QB sneak on 3rd and short that we've been looking for. Cousins actually ran once when, because these defenses have, as we've been bemoaning, these defenses have given him, 5-10 yards, but he just doesn't take it.
Right.
It's amazing as somebody who isn't an X's and O's guy, obviously, to see just how, you talked earlier this season about volume and whether or not DeFilippo had too much volume in his playbook, but that volume didn't translate into a lot of things that we saw in the Dolphins game. Rolling out, a lot more screens, play action. It's DeFilippo, for all this talk about volume, was limiting the offense by not doing those things. By running the ball more, you open up the pass game, you open up the play action. You get to, all these things that we've been asking for, and it's like, well, where was the volume then? Was he just had a ton of different options under center and out of the shotgun? I'm amazed.
Yeah, so am I. That's really never been defined. It's just like this quote of too much volume. What does that mean? That's pretty vague. What's the volume that we're not getting? And it sounds like it was too much for the players to handle, much like they did with the defense, and that's a very basic look at it because we don't know. But man, if that's the case, coaches, get over yourself. Keep it simple, stupid, and go win ball. Just go play football. I don't know.
Maybe DeFilippo was buying into his own reputation too much, or he was trying to mimic Peterson too much. I don't know. I'm glad that it's been different, but I'm still working on an article about Cousins' success under center versus out of the shotgun. I know in our live chats and on Twitter and stuff, a lot of people really don't like when Cousins is out of the shotgun. We talked about this on Tuesday, but Zimmer used the unfortunate term "suck." It sucks the defense in a little bit. So stay tuned for that because I'll determine whether I'm trying to find a way to get those numbers on our Pro Football Focus account. But let's get into over-unders and predictions.
Last week?
Yeah, so last week, that's a...
Oh, there we go. Dead air. What happened, Joe? Where'd you go?
I'm trying to look up what we had last week.
Show prep. Okay, well, what did we do last week? We had doesn't matter. Let's just go ahead with.
Actually, we went over that on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So let's just do that. This is a great show. So this week the over/unders are some good ones. Adam Thielen, 99.5 yards. My memory is horrible.
Adam Thielen 99.5 yards. Cousins 0.5 interceptions.
Yep.
Vikings defense 7.5
7.5 sacks. Woo! I keep throwing these Cousins ones into it because I do think that is the major component of whether or not the team will win. Granted, he had a pick six and they still dominated last week, but that's probably going to be a mainstay, and it's considering it is probably the easiest one on the board.
All right. I was right last week, I believe, so you should go first.
Oh, wow.
I had Cook at 9. I had him at plus 15 carries. So
yep.
You had 19. Go ahead.
Yeah. I will go with the over on. Actually, I'm gonna go on the under on Cousins and the interceptions. I really feeling just based on the Darius Slay situation and the fact that they're nearly top 10 in pass defense. But I'm gonna believe in my guy and say that he's gonna bounce back this week and not throw another pick. So I'll go the under on the interception.
That was mine as well originally, but so I will go with the under on the Vikings defense. I think that even though they're playing well there, I think the Lions are going to be ready for it this time. They're going to try to figure out something they can do. They're going to chip. They're going to keep some protection back in there for Stafford. So and it'd be hard to get 8 sacks after just getting 9. Unless you're the 85 Bears, I guess. So I'm going to go under on the Vikings defense getting that many sacks.
I'll go with the score too. I do think that this defense is rolling. They held them to 9 points last time. I don't think they'll do that again, but I think they'll end up with. I think it'll be a relatively relaxing game. Knock on wood. I think the Vikings are going to come out firing. I think with this is more less volume but more option offense that they're going to be able to put up some points, especially early, and then kind of settle in and let the defense do their thing. So I'm going with a 37-15 score Vikings over the Lions in Detroit.
I got Vikings on my preview this week. I wrote Vikings 27-17. So, I stay right there in the middle. We get, it's probably the high
sweet spot.
Yeah, it's my sweet spot. It's served me well thus far. I mean, you could make up some ground this week.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, so I don't know where it's at, but you only got this week and next week to go. And
so should I say 100-3?
You could. I don't know if it'll work out for you, but
my dad even mentioned, he goes, "Man, Joe's been killing it with his predictions lately." And I'm like, I know.
But you just mentioned it. I mean, they get a big lead. Zimmer likes to go into pound the beef and sit on it, defensively, and just the only and they'll even let, generally speaking, if they got a big lead, they go into prevent and let them move down the field, eat the clock, and maybe get a late game score. So you guys have to account for that. But I'm doing okay. I'm not ready for Vegas yet, but I'm doing all right. I'm good enough to stay ahead of you, Joe.
Anybody could do that. That pound the beef thing I was going to mention too. That's probably the most awkward new battle cry. I like it though, just based on what it means. That
I want to comment on that, but that's okay.
I think Elfline came up with it, and it's talking about just running the ball and getting the big guys out there mauling people. I think if I interpret it correctly.
Yeah, just ground and pound. They want to run the ball and just. Take the attack to the defense. I mean, when you're playing pass protection all game long, you're retreating as a lineman. You're almost playing defense because you've got to react on how that guy reacts to you to a certain extent when they're rushing you. So they love to take linemen. All have said this forever that they would rather run block than pass block in a heartbeat. So makes sense.
I also, I would love to see them throw a pass to Brian O'Neill. I think if they make the playoffs, that's going to happen. With his background as a tight end, that'd be pretty fun. He's having a great year. I think he's had 13 games now in a row where he hasn't given up a sack. Right. The line is really coming together, and
with all due respect, Joe, that's the last thing I'd do then. Make him focus on anything else other than what he's doing. He's a rookie. I don't think they'll pass him, and I hope they don't.
I hope they let him call plays. No pressure. This has been Morning Joe's. Thanks for everybody for listening. Definitely show up to the live chat this week. We have some new writers coming in, as I joked about earlier. We're gonna be doing some our own little mini training camp and having some tryouts with some internal stuff. But we should end up with some new guys, new perspectives. 2019 is going to be an amazing year for the sites, and we're really working on, in regards to the shows, the Purple Territory Network, in bringing you guys some amazing content and making it easier for you to select which shows you'd like to listen to as opposed to getting every show. Tyler Haig of the Bleeding Purple podcast and of Hot Dish in the Fridge is now our production manager, so he's going to be handling a lot of that, and we're going to be implementing some new software, so it should be pretty cool. I want to highlight our message board, because with a lot of these new writers, I'm going to be getting a lot of activity there, so if you're looking for a new place to hang out, argue about Mike Prefer or Teddy Bridgewater's 2015 Pro Bowl appearance, definitely check that out, because I'll be there angrily debating people. But at 10:30 we'll be doing about a 10-minute Q&A on Periscope. I will send that link out now, so if you're hearing this live, check that out. We did it on Tuesday. The conclusion was that I am overweight, so that's always fun. But hopefully today will go a little bit better. We'll see. I'm doing a lot of Periscope stuff. I'm trying to do something every day, just covering the news of the day as well. So check us out on Periscope. Check out our live chat on Purple PTSD on Vikings Territory. Check out the other shows on Purple Territory Network. Have over 10 shows. And thanks everyone for the support. We're really excited about what's coming up, and we wouldn't have been able to get there without all of your support. So it's been a fun ride so far. But this has been Morning Joe's. We will catch you guys on Tuesday, hopefully with some even more.
We may have to change that up. That will be Christmas morning, so I'm not.
Oh yeah, it is, huh?
That might be a tough stretch for me.
No, yeah, that's not going to work for me. I'm not even going to be home. We'll figure it out. Stay tuned, and we'll get the word out. But maybe we might. I know. Check out About the Labor. They're looking to do a roundtable after the game on Sunday with a bunch of different people from. So maybe we'll be able to hop on there, and you guys can check us out in our takes on that. So we don't have to mess things up during the holiday. But Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Oberly. I have your present. I sleep with it and stare at it and sweat. And
can't wait to get my hands at it then.
I have to look at it and say the Serenity Prayer 5 times. But yeah, this has been Morning Joe's. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Merry Christmas to you, Joe.
Thanks, man. You too.